Should the Normandy come back for Mass Effect 4, or is revisiting old places just lazy game design? I put a poll out in my community tab, wondering if people would like to see the Normandy return for the next Mass Effect game, and the answer I got surprised me. I love to revisit old places in games. When it's done right, it gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling. But when it's done wrong, it really frustrates me. Another example of that I'm going to rant about in just a moment. But let's start with some games that have done it really well. Most obvious is the wreckage of the Normandy SR-1. How can anyone not love seeing that SR-1 again? You spend so much time on board that ship, to see it blown up at the start of Mass Effect 2 breaks my heart. Okay, it wasn't a patch on the SR-2, but the adventures we have together. You've been given that ship to save the galaxy. You built up your team, met Garrus, even been annoyed having to pay for your own equipment, and maybe, just maybe, you'd fraternise with the crew. Not many games would allow you to revisit the wreckage. Other games would have just given you the SR-2 and be done with it. So walking around that crash site is eerie and yet beautiful at the same time. I liked how this guy would salute me when I walked up to him. I have no idea who he is, I never spoke to him. Yet walking around that crash site, I felt sad for every loss that ship suffered. Maybe the saluting guy was one of them. It's strange how they got this so right, and yet every time we visit the Citadel, it doesn't look like anything they previously did. But I suppose there was a narrative reason for that. Another good example is the Ebon Hawk from Knights of the Old Republic. This ship already had a checkered past before you got your hands on it. At the end of the game, the character flies off into the unknown regions to find the true Sith, only for it to reappear in Knights of the Old Republic 2. Damaged, and without your character, it gave you this massive mystery subplot which only got deeper when one of your old companions found it on board. Just imagine having a mission on a planet that you come across the Normandy, going through the wreckage of that ship, maybe finding the captain's quarters, maybe finding a smashed up photo with someone's face in it, or even finding Edie on board and a circuitry all damaged and decayed and you can't get much sense out of her. Just little snippets of what happened to the Normandy after the defeat of the Reapers. So is this just lazy game design? Yes, granted you do get to reuse old assets or build on nostalgia, but isn't that what gaming's all about? It's fair to say that game companies should take a risk and try new things out. Take Resident Evil for example, another one of my favourite series. After the end of Resident Evil 1, they could have gone back to the mansion. Well, okay, maybe that was a little hard after this. But in fact they did intend to at one point, but they changed their minds. In fact, they didn't even use the same characters for the sequel. Leon and Claire replacing Chris and Jill. It is a risky move, but it paid off, and yet that risk they've never repeated. However, in Outbreak you can revisit that police station. Same too with Resident Evil 3. After spending so much time there and getting to see the police station again, it brings back these memories of the first time that you played, and the first time you jumped out of your skin. Bringing back the Normandy for Mass Effect 4 would need to be done right. And for those of you waiting for my rant, brace yourself because here it comes. Dragon Age Origins. You visit a place called Haven, in search of Andraste's ashes. It's a lovely little place with its own church, little gift shop, and some crazy cultists. Once you gain entry to Haven Chantry, you can go through the church. In Dragon Age Inquisition, you revisit this place, yet it doesn't look anything like you remember. Here is you walking up the hill to the Chantry before, and here it is in Inquisition. Okay, I get that one is old technology, but you can still recreate the landscape. How do you lose a massive hill in the 10-year gap? If you've got no intention of recreating those moments, then why not just call it a new place? And the technology isn't an excuse. Not really, look at this. This is The Witcher, King Foltest Castle in Witcher 1, released in 2007. This was made on Bioware's Aurora engine. Now, take a look at this. The former King Foltest Castle in The Witcher 3, released in 2015. And it's on the Red Engine 3, an in-house engine. Alright, the graphics are improved, but you can still tell it's exactly the same building. So, If they do bring back the Normandy, it will need to be recognisable. I wouldn't mind if things look different on the inside. I mean, after all, they did this in Mass Effect 2 and 3. When you play a game for the first time, you get this feeling of excitement, this awe and mystery of not knowing what's coming up. Like when you emerge from the vault for the very first time and the entire map is laid out for you. Well, you can do what you want and go wherever you choose. When you play the game again, you know that direction there leads to Red Rocket and this direction leads to Sanctuary. And so that magic is lost. Bringing back the Normandy may, just for a moment, rekindle that spark that you felt that very first time you played, reigniting that passion. It could be a reason why people didn't like Andromeda as much. Everything was new. And although they did try to have references back to the trilogy, such as family members or name drops, without having that option to revisit some places you know and love, gave it a sort of disconnect. Maybe they should have started you off in the Milky Way, being on Omega or Ilium, and then going to Andromeda. Another option that quite a few suggested was to have the ship in some kind of museum. I really like that idea, and we've already seen it in the Citadel DLC and again in Andromeda, so it could work. It's a nice little nod to the past without being dragged down by it, and for new players who don't have this connection to the trilogy, something that can be passed by completely. But bringing back memories won't be worth the time and effort if Bioware don't learn from their past mistakes, and to see what they are, you'll need to watch this video next. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you hit that like button and maybe even the join button for membership. Big thank you to Nerdy Dude, the supporters, and you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Commander.